Okay, let's just dive right in. Welcome to this explainer, where we are going to completely transform how you approach your English home language paper 1. If you've ever felt, like an anxious test taker just staring blankly at a comprehension question, well, today is the day that changes. We're going to turn you into a strategic master builder by decoding the ultimate English exam blueprint.
So, here is our blueprint for today. We'll start by decoding the blueprint, then look at the builders, which are your task words, followed by a deep dive into inquiry words. From there, we hit the critics for those higher-order mechanics, navigate the spectrum, and finally open up the construction toolbox.
All right, Section 1, Decoding the Blueprint, specifically looking at task versus enquiry. Now, there is a fundamental division in exam vocabulary that you absolutely have to understand. On one hand, we have task words. These dictate the physical action of your answer, literally what you are supposed to do. But on the other hand, we have inquiry words. These dictate the cognitive deep dive. They're the words that actually determine your mark allocation because they establish the required depth of your response.
And here is a severe warning straight from the 2025 Examiner's Report. They highlighted a massive rookie mistake. When students don't recognize a task word, they panic. And what do? They just summarize the text. Look, if you do this instead of performing the required task, it literally guarantees you a 0. We are going to make sure that never happens to you.
Moving on to Section 2, let's talk about the builders, your task words.
Think of these as your structural verbs. When you see a word like describe, you need to use adjectives so the reader can vividly visualize the concept. When you see explain, your job is to clarify it with specific details and reasons. And when you see discuss, it's kind of like sharing knowledge with someone else. You must explore different perspectives using details and examples. Let's say a question asks you to explain a character's motivation. A rookie is just going to list facts about what the character did. But a master builder, they use the word explain to connect the character's past trauma directly to why they made that choice. You have to build a reasoned response, not just rattle off facts.
All right, Section 3. Let's take a deep dive into inquiry words.
It is absolutely crucial to spot the difference here. How asks for the method, the process of something coming to be. But why? That requires a totally different, much higher level of thinking. With why, you're explaining the purpose or the deeper reason behind it. For instance, answering how a writer builds suspense means you're explaining their use of short sentences. Answering why means you're exploring the author's grand purpose and making the reader feel panicked. You've got to know which one the examiner is actually asking for.
Which brings us to Section 4, the critics, higher-order mechanics.
I really love this analogy. When you're asked to analyze, you have to act like a detective. You break the material down into its component parts, write down the obvious facts, and explicitly uncover the hidden meanings. But when you are asked to evaluate, you take off that detective hat and put on a judge's wig. Now you are weighing both sides on a scale and presenting a careful appraisal of the advantages and limitations.
A true master builder move for an evaluation question is remembering that you absolutely must express a definitive opinion based on your findings. Think about it. A judge doesn't just list the evidence and then casually walk out of the courtroom, right? No way. They deliver a final verdict.
Okay, Section 5, the spectrum. To what extent?
This specific phrase is designed by examiners to force complexity. They do not want a binary yes or no here. Instead, think of it as a sliding scale, or maybe a mixing board going from 0% to 100%. You are plotting your answers somewhere on a spectrum of truth.
To guarantee your marks on this slider, just follow this simple 1-2-3 actionable formula. First, state your precise position. Say something like, I partially agree. Second, acknowledge the supportive points. I understand it because it prevents X. And third, pivot to contrast with the limitations. However, it is flawed because of Y. And please listen closely to the 2025 examiners on this one. They explicitly warn against vague, wishy-washy phrasing like, to a large or lesser extent. Doing that totally undermines the nuance they're looking for. You have to argue with total precision rather than just speaking in generalities if you want to grab those higher-order marks. Moving to Section 6, Comparison Logic and Traps. This is all about avoiding those tricky layout traps where the formatting tries to confuse your comparison.
People get these mixed up all the time. Comparing requires pointing out both similarities and differences. Usually, you're looking for common characteristics. Contrasting, on the other hand, specifically demands that you show how the subjects are explicitly different and opposing. You have to know which key unlocks which door here.
Write this next part down, highlight it, tattoo it on your brain. Never forget this golden rule. If a question asks you to look at text A and text B, focusing on only one will absolutely hemorrhage your marks. You must discuss both sides to complete the comparison circuit. No exceptions.
Finally, Section 7, the construction toolbox. This is where we stop falling for simple 2-mark traps and start securing those heavy 3- and 4-mark scores.
To construct a meaty, full-mark answer that examiners will just love, you need to utilize 4 specific cognitive tools to frame your thoughts.
Whenever you finish writing a long response, do a quick mental check against this toolbox. Ask yourself, did I anchor this with an integrated quote? Did I build a bridge using my own outside knowledge? Did I look through the lens of the author's stance to check the tone? And did I weigh it on the scale by discussing both choices? If you use these tools, your answers are going to be structurally sound every single time.
Here's another incredibly useful tool. If a question ever asks you about the effectiveness of a figure of speech, just run it right through this flowchart. Step 1. Name the specific device. Step 2. Explain exactly how it functions. Is it comparative? Is it structural? And step 3, which is by far the most critical step, you must link it back and reflect on its effectiveness within the specific context of the passage. Do not just give the examiner a textbook definition.
I'm going to leave you with this urgent note directly from the 2025 Examiner's Report. A master builder uses precise, specific vocabulary for tone and mood. Never settle for generic, fluffy emotional descriptors. Use the exact positioning words that the text demands. So the blueprint is now completely in your hands. You know how to tell a task from an inquiry, you know how to navigate the sliding scale of truth, and you have the Master Builder's toolbox ready to go. The only question left is, are you going to panic and summarize like a rookie? Or are you going to pick up these tools and construct absolute brilliance on your next paper? Thanks for joining me on this explainer. Now go out there and master paper 1.